Hi, I'm Shannon Chavla with Authentic Healing. Thanks so much for being here. Have you ever wondered why you always feel tight and uncomfortable in your body and you can't figure it out? And sometimes you're just achy and uncomfortable, and it just feels like your body just doesn't feel right. So, there can be many issues to have that happen. And one of them can be what I call armoring, and it's a protective mechanism, right? So your body learned how to protect you somewhere along the line, right? And there's reasons for that. Often we can go into a protective mode because of an injury, right? We've had an injury and our body has to respond to that. But a lot of times it's not just that one spot that you injured, it's like the whole body starts to protect, right? So you get what? Plantar fasciitis, and your right or ankle is just killing you. So what happens? Your gait changes, you start walking differently, you start pulling your body back, even minutely. And then you start having shoulder problems. Then you start having back problems. And it's all because you're trying to protect yourself from the pain down in your foot. So our whole body responds to injury and the need to protect it. But what happens if after an injury is gone, or a traumatic situation, or fatigue, or something like that, and yet your body has remembered that protective process? It's remembered how to stay in that place of contraction and armoring. Well, then that then sets in motion this this inability to have a good range of motion, good circulation, the sense of ease in the muscles and the mind, and it begins to build on itself. And then more and more, we get more and more tight in our bodies somewhere. So, one of the areas that I see this often is in our gut, actually, right? So, let's say that you've had, at a very young age, something, so you had some sort of a trauma happen. And so it is an instinctual response to kind of go like this and to shut our gut down, right? And that then pulls at our body. And that also then, shortens the neck. And then we start getting neck pain. So we're having gut pain and we're having neck pain at the same time, right? Well, they're actually connected often, but it has to do with structure and armoring and protecting. So if then you start having more contraction in your gut and protection, what does that mean? That means you might have low motility, right? Issues with constipation. It might mean that your stomach is not emptying out properly because of tightness in some of the muscles and the sphincter muscles. So you might start getting what? Acid reflux or GERD issues, or you might start getting bloated, right? So there's lots of reasons why gut issues happen. I'm not saying that, oh, it's only because of armoring and protecting them. Well, there's many reasons. This is one of the reasons that it could potentially happen. But even so, being aware and coming to understand, wow, am I like holding tension all the time? And where am I holding tension? That's really just the awareness piece, right? So how do we become more aware of that, right? So I can share I can share a little insight on this. That let's say that you're having to have a conversation with someone, and this someone really sometimes just makes you feel really like guarded, and you don't know how to have a conversation with this person without feeling guarded, and your whole body gets really really tight, right? Well, that sets off this whole type of a flow in the body where everything starts to contract, and you don't actually then have access to those places that give us space and strength and breath and intelligence. Our bodies are super intelligent. They know how to protect. But guess what? They're also wired for peace. and they're wired for amazing strength and space. We just have to give it the opportunity to do that. So I can just tell you that I just recently had a moment where I was having a conversation with someone, and I immediately went into protective mode because of how the conversation was going, and I wasn't feeling comfortable with the way that things were being said, and it really made me uncomfortable, and my whole body like contracted, and then all of a sudden I was in a defense mode. So because I've done this work, I stepped away, I took a minute, and I actually took some big deep breaths, and I shook my body a bit, and I went, okay, wait a minute. What needs to change here? And I realized what needed to change was that I needed to come into my own strength and into my own relaxation, and not feel like I had to armor, because if I'm in this place of resonance with strength, right, and confidence, but not in a way where I'm trying to battle or protect, I'm actually inviting in, more of a conversation. And then you get to know, do I go back into that conversation and do I change the way I'm talking, or is your intelligence saying, no, now's not the time to have this conversation. I'll try and talk about something later, or I'll correct it by writing something, or at a different time where everyone's energy is feeling better. Right? So our bodies are intelligent, and they're such good indicators of how we should take care of ourselves when we're aware of it. But if we're not aware of it, then it does exactly what I had, which was protection mode, defense mode, anger mode, and then all of a sudden I'm having all of these emotions that I don't actually really want to be having in my life. So I have to like step out. I have to come back into centering, come back into my breath, come back into knowing how I want to be in conversation with someone. Then I can step back in, because I'm no longer connecting to that energy of trying to battle. So, what can armoring look like for you? Right? So let's go back to that awareness piece, which is something, of course, I always talk about in all of my videos. Is just start becoming aware of what happens when you're in a situation where you feel protected in a way that you really don't need to be, right? You're like, your shoulders are up, your elbows are in, your gut is tight, right? But then let's say that you leave a situation and that continues. And so now you are always feeling tight and guarded and armored. So that's really important, because if that is what our nervous system knows, if that's what our organs know and our muscles know, and that's the only thing that we are allowing it to be in, then that sets up our whole nervous system and our minds and our bodies into a place of always feeling on the defense. So it's just noticing it, because the minute that we notice it, we get to make a change, because there are appropriate times where we need to be guarded, right? There are appropriate times where we need to be armored. Absolutely. But if it's 24/7, then that's just information for us to look at and decide if we want to start softening a bit. And remembering that our bodies also have the capacity and are wired for peace and relaxation and flow. All of those things are present as well. And then if we lean into nurturing those, then it's a balance. So please let me know if you have any comments or questions below. I appreciate you being here. My next video is on nourishment, which I think is a really important step along the way of letting go of the armoring.